Indian colleagues, and even so, Puja couldn't make it. Let's hear let's hear who did she send? Who is she, and what's her work about?
My name is Virar.
Yeah.
And I'm not an artist. I'm sorry, I just stepped in. But I know she wanted to read something, so it's from this book. It's called Latitudes of Longing by Shubhangi Swarup. And Puja Sarup is not related to Shubhangi Swarup. I know the surnames are similar, but that's not no relation. And actually, I just want to read one line from this book.
That's very, very good.
Yeah, just one. I'm done. Just that's it. Okay. So the line is, you can't step into someone else's shoes till you remove your own. Yeah. That's it. That's all I want. Yeah, I'm so happy to be here. And I'll just try and see if she's awake. I just don't.
Yeah, go. Just check out if she's going to join us. That would be good. That's fantastic. And what an important sentence, actually. You have to take your own shoes off first, because otherwise you're still in there. What a big thought, and I will really think about that. So, Puja, tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
So my name is Puja Sarup, and I live in Mumbai, and I'm a theatre practitioner, which basically means I run a theatre company here with a friend of mine, Sheena Khalid, and we direct, we act, we produce, we do everything. We feed the actors, we cook for them, we iron the clothes, everything.
How big is your company? And speak a bit louder, or make the mic a bit, yeah.
So it's we don't have a fixed group of actors. It's Sheena and I who are running the company, and we have freelance actors coming in and out depending on the project. So,
and what do you work about? Do you have a field? What you are a bit more specialized in when it comes to theme or style, or?
So far, most of our work has been devised work. So the inspiration has been either a 2-page story or it's been an image. One of our plays is called The Gentleman's Club, where it's a play about drag kings. So we don't really, in India, we don't have too much of a drag king scene. So we've created an imaginary setting in Mumbai, an underground world where drag kings are common, and just we're not explaining how it happened. We're just going with this has happened. This is accepted, and it's just like a peep into this club. So yeah, but most of our work has been devised. We call the Patchworks Ensemble because we wanted to collaborate with different artists, different fields. So yeah. But we haven't done much in the last 1.5 years. We sort of, we took the pause. We tried doing some things online, but we were not having that much fun. So we said, okay, let's just pause. This is time for us to sort of feed ourselves with other things, focus on other things like family. And so that's where we've been in terms of the company.
Yeah, we'll of course come back to you. Nuhar, tell us a little bit about you and your work.
Thank you, Frank. My name is Nuhar Bansal. I am an arts manager based in Bangalore, India.
I'm sorry, Nuhar, I'm just going to interrupt you. Can we ask all our viewers to please reload their pages, because it seems that Vimeo cuts you off momentarily at 12 hours. So whoever is watching the live stream, if you can just reload your pages, please, and we are right back. We're here, we're on. So just come.
But how will they hear us if they already lost us?
Pia says they apparently can.
Okay, good. Reload your pages means go back to HowlRound website and click on the link.
Yeah, just refresh your page. Should be good.
Do I have to do that too?
No, we're good. We're on the Zoom. Thank you. All right, Nuhar, thank you.
No problem. Okay, so as I was saying, I am an arts manager based in Bangalore in India. And what that means is that I manage whatever aspect of arts I am asked to manage or I find interesting enough to manage. I started started out as an independent production manager, which meant I would manage backstage of small scale productions in India, which meant everything from coordinating from sets, lights, costumes, moving things around, making calls, drawing up schedules, writing emails, talking to the press, everything that goes behind managing a production. It's usually because of budget reasons and scale reasons, a one-person job. And I started out as that person, and I've been doing this for 5 years now. And now I work in arts management in the sense that I manage the non-performing aspects of arts, which is projects or planning, venues. Currently working as a producer for a movement arts company called Attakalari in Bangalore again. So that's me briefly, Frank.
That's amazing. So we really have a view at the Indian theater and art scene. I mean, it's amazing. We have 50 artists all over India from all the parts and 8 different languages, actually, not dialects, languages. So Puja, how is it for you? You talked a little bit, you said it was not able to really do work. The entire theater world has come to a standstill. Some felt they can focus and create. Some said, no, it's actually a time not to be productive, to think what we are doing, take time out. We did too much anyway. How did you experience personally this that made you say we should not do online?
I think one thing that changed for me drastically during the pandemic was this thing of the show must go on. And I was like, you know what? It doesn't need to right now. Like it's okay. And accepting that. And yes, for me personally, it was like a time to pause and just, like I did feel like I'd been in a race, like just like chuck, and just going on and on and on and feeling very drained. So the pause was good. It's still good, I think. That was like theater wise, but also, and I think also, especially with the second wave, there were bigger things to deal with. There was like one thing, and this is what I wanted to talk about is like last year when the pandemic hit, like I was more active in relief work. I was working with this organization called Artists for Artists. And so my husband and I would take ration kits because a lot of artists couldn't buy like basic groceries. So we had these kits and we had a list and we would go out and meet all sorts of artists, like musicians and drummers and like instruments that we haven't heard in a while. So you were meeting artists who play jaltarang, which is like a collection of cups which you fill with water and then you play those. So it was quite interesting, like meeting different kind of artists that somewhere I think in my years of practice I haven't had that kind of interaction. So that was last year, and I felt. And this year,
you brought them food. Excuse me. You met them because you brought resources.
Yeah. So we were like, it was there'll be 2 kilos of rice and 5 kilos of rice.
Where did you get the rice from? How did that work?
This is Artists for Artists. It's a wonderful organization started by Prince Mullah. He's a musician, and he basically got a bunch of people together to coordinate, to raise funds, and then looked out for volunteers who would actually go into the areas delivering. So that's what we were doing last year. And they restarted this year during the second wave because they were getting so many calls of artists saying like, can you help us out? We need some sort of assistance. So so that was last year. And this year, my family got sick. We all had COVID in the second wave. Fortunately, we didn't need a hospital. And that time we were just like, thank God, nobody needs to get to a hospital. The one thing I did get involved with after that was a very dear theater professor of mine got sick. He had COVID and he had to be in the hospital. This is in Goa, it's not Mumbai. And, he had severe post-COVID complications, and the bills were just insane. And so we were trying to raise funds for him specifically. And, it was, you're dealing with things like, this online platform takes 13%. This one takes so much percentage as a cut when you're raising funds. So you're dealing with all that, and you're trying to rack your brains, trying to figure out like, how do I reach out to more people, and especially at a time when like people have been contributing, people have been doing so much, and there's also a sort of fatigue there, and like also financial fatigue where you're like, you know, I mean, I had so many people messaging me, I'm sorry, I can give only this much. And I was like, guys, relax. No, it's the heart that's important. And, you know, every contribution is crucial. Like everything counts. So there was all that happening. And I also felt, honestly, I felt anger towards my professor, where I was like, you know, his paperwork was not in order. And I was like, why didn't he have his voter ID? It would have made things easier. You know, like we had access to some government funds, but we couldn't get it because the paperwork was not there, you know? So it was that thing. And I also realized the anger was coming from a huge space of fear, like a personal fear, which is like, this is my worst nightmare. You know, you hear of these amazing artists who've done great work and now living under staircases, you know, like really dire financial situations. And so that got triggered for me personally, you know, like that financial insecurity.
Yeah, I think Anna Rupa Roy, she said earlier in the call, so many artists, you know, who were involved in also in street performance, or like kind of artists who basically also, you know, are moving, and so that they say, we're going to leave the field. That's it. We're going to go into healthcare. We do other things. We cannot survive. That is, you know, it's actually finding some money to even record their work, their puppetry work, because it will never be shown again, which helped the artist for a couple of months, but not enough. Nuhar, how is it for you? What signals do you pick up? And in Bangalore, you said, right?
Yes, Frank. My experience of the pandemic was primarily that of a lot of relative privilege, because I'm in a situation where I live with family, which meant I didn't have bills to pay, which meant I lost my job immediately as soon as the pandemic hit, because I was managing an events cultural space when that happened. And we were a self-sustaining space, which meant we did not have funding, which we did not have sponsorship. We were a hand-to-mouth funding our own salaries sort of an institution. And when we couldn't hold events anymore, it meant we couldn't pay salaries. So we had to shut down. However, like I said, it didn't really crack down on me personally, because I had the privilege of staying with family. And as vast as the spectrum of the impact of COVID on artists is in India, which a lot of artists before me have spoken as I have been listening myself, the truth of a certain niche workers, theater workers in metropolitan setups is also this, is that a lot of people aren't able to pursue a full-time career in the arts without really having a backup, which is either family or a full-time job, or you know, some other sort of cushion to fall back on, because arts and working in the arts is anyway highly risky. And then given situations like the pandemic, like Anurupa mentioned, there's just no other way to go but to just quit and do other things, you know. And that's something that I was dealing with myself a little bit when I was questioning my whole decision of pursuing theater. I'm a graduate of law, and which is a very stable career in India if one wants to pursue. However, I chose not to because I had other plans, and that sort of this pandemic threw the past half a decade of my journey in theater under the bus and just made me question everything, saying, oh my God, what does the future look like? So that was that.
For both of you, that's, yeah, you said for Puja and for you, that put you really seriously into question, why are you doing it? And it's almost like under torture, where you have to tell the truth and walking through a fire. We have about 5 minutes. Did you guys prepare something? Do you want to read something, or you don't have to? We can, yeah.
I have a small piece. It's a 2-minute piece that I would like to read.
Yes, please. Let's do that right away.
Okay. All right. Just a minute. Okay. Okay, so this is me and this is the person, and we are going to talk. Yeah. Okay, but no, you know what? No, this is This is much harder than I expected it to be, There is no tamasha without my jamura. And there is no joker without tamasha. My jamura and I, we were just like Shah and Modi on stage. Jamura would know exactly how to cause mischief and disappear, and I would know exactly when to reappear and distract. We have made people laugh, cry, lose hope, only to regain it in foolish ways. We have left people gaping in disbelief at what we were capable of. But well, there is no stage, no jamura, no show, no audience. Such is life. Actually, my jamura had requested for work from home. But the work we do can't be done from home, So I said, it's okay. We will come back and work after lockdown is over. But the lockdown kept extending and Jamura ran out of rent money. So he said he will, go back to his hometown, walk back actually, because train, bus, nothing was working. 583 kilometers, he had said. It's his house is away. I don't know if he has reached actually. I don't know if he's even alive actually, because the last time I heard from him, he was somewhere on the Uttar Pradesh border, and these TV news say very scary things about that place. So I don't. Anyway, I have been trying to work on this solo act for a couple of months now without the jamura, but very unsuccessfully so far. I think face paint needs to be made an essential commodity. It is the most essential thing to my identity. I mean, don't you see? I mean, I get it. Existence is more important than identity right now, but I mean, I've been managing one meal a day. It's not that urgent. I don't have face paint. I can't do a show. Come on. Wait, can you hear me? Hello? And scene.
Thank you. Yeah, this is quite something, which brings us almost, can you see me? And and I have one meal a day, so this is quite an essence, those even just those two lines. Puja, we give you the last word. You have 2 more minutes.
I just wanted to add to what you said, Frank, which is that, like, I'm not questioning why I'm doing this, but I'm a little more concerned about, like, making this solid for myself, like that has sort of become a priority. And yes, in terms of the finances, etc. And the other thing I wanted to quickly share was that feeling very grateful and fortunate to have a community around me where even when I was trying to raise funds, I may not know how to do, like, okay, how do I open this like fundraiser website and work on it? But I knew people who could help me. So it was always a phone call away where I was like, I know I can find people who can help me with whatever I need right now. So a lot of gratitude for that through this whole time.
Yeah, I think there, structures that existed before and now are created that are valuable.
And I thought that line that Shubhangi's written in the book, like, it just resonated so strongly that it's incomplete to say that step into someone's shoes. You take off your own first.
You have to take your own first. It's not enough to go with your own. It's incredible insight, and that is really will stay with me. Let's move over to Beijing, which is, how far is Beijing away from Bangalore?
Well, that you have to ask Google, But
so in an airplane, it's a couple of hours.
Yeah, of course, it's a couple of hours. Not too far. For me, it's 9:20 in the morning. So we have, 2 hours time difference. I don't know. Yeah.
So Eddie, you are based in Beijing. You're a writer, academic researcher, but also did practice. You worked as a director. So what's happening in Beijing? Paint us a little picture.
Okay, so am I loud and clear?
Yeah, we are perfect. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Frank, for having me here. And hello, everyone. My name is Hanchen Feng. I'm an instructor in theater and performance studies working at the Central Academy of Drama in Beijing, China. And I'm happy to be part of this marathon to support India and demonstrate the solidarity of the global theater community. And speaking of the situation in Beijing, I think here we are doing okay. I mean, the situation has been improved due to the community-based epidemic prevention, which turned out to be effective in desperate times. Nowadays, we hardly see new cases detected, except for a handful of them in Yunnan province, you know, the southwest border of China, but they are being well attended, I'm sure. The new data shows that 90% to 95% of population in Beijing has been vaccinated. And I know the government has been encouraging people to take the vaccinations. So, you know, in case you don't want to, in case there are some people in rural parts of Beijing, they don't believe in the immunity, you know, they say we don't have to make any face-to-face interactions, so I don't need this vaccination. So in order to get everybody vaccinated, the government would encourage you by offering you small gifts or paying you cash, you know, for the injections you take. So actually, yes, I mean, the situation is under control here in Beijing, at least. There isn't too much to say about the pandemic here. But on the other hand, I'm not sure if you have watched the news. I mean, the flood has been a great enemy recently. Heavy flooding has hit central China earlier this week. And China's Henan province, which is twice the size of Austria with a population of 94 or 95 million, has become the most recent victim. And the subway system in Zhengzhou city has been inundated with rushing water. The news are all over the internet. You can Google it, which can break our hearts. We don't know the possible deaths or injuries, but more than 10,000 residents were moved to shelters, according to the news. And the videos posted online shows that an entire neighborhood drawing in deep water, and with vehicles are floating in the muddy mire, etc., etc. And up to the north, the Inner Mongolia is another province, has also been hit by heavy rain, once in 1,000 years kind of. So it's quite unsafe here, and people are suffering. And I can't help wondering what on earth is going wrong. I mean, is it the consequence of climate crisis? I don't know. But yeah, maybe we should take the time to reflect why the disasters keep bearing down upon us. And we're just barely recovered from the corona. Now comes the flood. Seems like there always will be an unexpected situation. Yeah.
Incredible. Incredible to hear that you have 95% of vaccination rate in Beijing. Meanwhile, India has 1 or 2%, if I understood right. It's shocking there, you know, that systems in place, but some seem in this, at least, context to work effectively, others not. And that is quite stunning. And yes, also in Germany, is experiencing floods that have never been seen in hundreds of years. Old castles, old houses from the Middle Ages are washed away by water. So it is not really an extraordinary something that has once happened. So there's something bigger going on, and all the data shows, and this is a direct result of a climate change, and this might be just the very beginning of that new world where we are entering, where natural catastrophes, the warming of the oceans, dying of the coral reefs, and viruses that will come out, of parts of nature that traditional were animal kingdoms, but now are more and more intruded by humans. So it is quite a stunning a time we all do live in. So Hanchen, how is theater? So if it's such a high success at the moment in Beijing, so is everything open? Everybody rehearses? I remember that when we talked the last time, which is some time ago, there was, people had to rehearse with masks and social distancing, and everything was closed. How is this theater situation at the moment? Do you go every evening and the night to see something?
Actually, we don't have too many theater shows every night. It's not Broadway here, but yes. I mean, things are getting better. I remember that just over a year ago, theaters in most Chinese cities were closed as the virus started to spread. But some began to reopen in late summer last year, and most of them have remained open since then. So for me, the conclusion is, well, theater survived, and that is the good news. And the online performances that had been serving as an alternative plan during the pandemic is now quickly replaced by the actual performances inside actual theaters, which proves that theater art is still worthy, and this face-to-face interaction, this intimacy is still unreplaceable. And however, before we can truly celebrate the reopen for the first time in months, the coronavirus pandemic is knocked down from the headlines of every news network by a different story altogether. The 100 years anniversary of the party. And you must have heard that.
Yes,
and,
very big.
Yeah, on July 1st, the party marked its 100th anniversary, and there were massive celebration, big fireworks, television shows, etc., etc. And it also highly influenced the theater sector. In order to celebrate the anniversary, there has been some red revolutionary theater shows, usually produced by big theater organizations such as our National Theater or People's Art Theater, and those big organizations. And for small and independent theater groups, to tell the truth, they don't stand a chance when the market is full of red shows. And I suppose the audience's views are varied towards this kind of politicized shows. According to my observation, the older generation tend to like these kind of shows as they appeal to them. The history of revolution is the bedtime stories of their childhood, I think. Some of the younger audiences are interested as they think, it would help them to have a better understanding about the history of the party, in which their ancestors might be part of. And of course, there are also audiences who are less interested in this kind of plays, and as they prefer to appreciate performances that are less ideological and more entertaining. So views are varied. But that was the situation before July. Now things are more relaxed, and this social distance rule you mentioned is no longer applied. According to my observation, it's no longer applied. During I think it's the Dragon Boat Festival last month, 25 Chinese and foreign plays were staged in Qinhuangdao, a seaside city of China, not far from Beijing. And this festival opened with the Polish director Christian Lupa's new production, A Madam Man's Diary, based on Lu Xun's short novel. And director Meng Jinghui is a famous representative of avant-garde theater, who is also the founder and artistic director of this festival, presented two of his own plays. Yeah, I don't recall their names, but one of them is something like The Ballad of the Sad Cafe by an American writer, Carson McCullers. Yeah, I think that's her name. And I remember there was also a new version of Romeo and Juliet performed from 3:00 a.m. to sunrise on the beach. So in short, this is a crazy festival, a crazy event of people from all over the country flushed into a small town for the feast. So it's more like a carnival rather than a festival. And the price of the tickets is I think is normal, it's cheap. It's the average price 200 or 300 RMB, which equals to 30 to 40 bucks. and it's fair for everyone. But the demand exceeds the supply. You know, there are too many audiences. So then there came the ticket brokers who bought the tickets from the box office for a song and sell them to the audiences for a fortune. You know, a 200 RMB ticket was sold for over 4,000 RMB by the brokers. That is $600. You know,
That's
so
incredible.
it's so crazy, and the quality of those shows is negotiable. So not all of them is.
So that's
so
quite
great,
something. To all of us, I think this sounds like messages from the future or somewhere. You know, the festivals. Everybody is vaccinated. There's no corona. People fight over tickets. It's incredible to hear that. For me to know, did you prepare a reading or something? If not, I have some more questions for you. But if not,
yes, I have prepared some reading. So
yeah, let's do that maybe first. So
yeah, okay. So I may need to, you know, share my screen if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see. How should I do that? Okay, can you see this?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm dedicating my reading to Xu Yuanchong, a translator and a professor of China, and he translated the whole collection of Shakespeare and Oscar Wilde. He is also best known for translating Chinese classics into English and French. So yeah, and in 2014, the Federation of International Translators conferred the Aurora Borealis Prize on him. And he is the first Chinese winner of this award. Unfortunately, Xu passed away last month at the age of 100. But I want to stress that we didn't lost him to the corona. I mean, we lost him in the time of corona. That's a big difference. But still, it is a great loss for us. So I'm going to read several fragments from his autobiography, you know. And he wrote his life like a poem. And there is a poem on the left side of the screen, which I'm not going to read, just to provide you an example. So what I'm going to read is his biography, his life. My green years, 1921 to 1932. My father's dream. I was a dream of my father. Poor, he dreamed of being rich. Lowly educated, he dreamed of having a higher education. Looked down upon, he dreamed of climbing up. An early widower, he dreamed of having a happily married life. That was the tragedy of his life. My mother's dream. My mother was more highly educated than my father. A student of the only vocational school for girls at Nanchang, Jiangxi province, she was good at drawing pictures of flowers and birds. She taught me how to read when I was only 3 years old. And she endowed me with an inborn love of beauty. One day when I asked her to teach me some new words, she couldn't, for she was engaged in housework. I knocked my head against her belly without knowing she was pregnant with my sister. Perhaps an abortion would be better, she said to my father, for she had dreamed of a disheveled woman seeking her life. Unfortunately, this dream did come true. The birth of my sister brought my mother's death. One night, I was sitting alone on the bed, when suddenly I perceived a shadow against the bed curtain without any object between it and the lamp. The shadow disappeared as soon as my father came in, and she said, it must be the apparition of my mother. That was the tragedy of her death and my native place. I was born in Nanchang, capital of Jiangxi province. Jiangxi was proud of its literary talents in Chinese history. Out of the 8 famous writers of China's golden age, 3 were natives of the province. Nanchang was also a capital where kings and princes had left memorable traces. Early in Tang Dynasty, Prince Teng, the emperor's younger brother, was the governor at Nanchang. He built a magnificent pavilion by the side of River Gan. When he was banished, a new governor came And a new governor came and held a banquet in the pavilion. A young poet wrote a poem to describe its splendor. By riverside towers, Prince Teng's pavilion proud. No more ringing bells punctuate the dancers' refrain. At dawn, it painted beams bar the south flying cloud. At dusk, its uprolled screens mingle with West Hills rain. Leisurely clouds hung over still waters all day long. The world and the seasons change beneath a changeless sky. Where is the prince who once here enjoyed wine and song? Beyond the rails, the silent rivers still rolls by. Beauty, mental or physical, will afford delight. Poetry or memories will revive memory of beauty, mental or physical, just as string and string of a lute will evoke vanished springs the poet has once seen. That is my reading. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was so beautiful and a great loss for the world, and also how wonderful that he had 100 years, you know, almost like the party, right? And in existence. So Hanchen, it's incredible to think about the circumstances when you're in. You hosted also talks. I know you did a kind of a conference. Tell us a little bit what you did during the time of Corona and how did that go?
Yes, actually, I did what you did. You know, you created the sequel talks. Actually, I co-created a series of live stream talks, conversations, and online short performances, readings with my colleagues in Beijing, and we have attracted over, I don't know, altogether 1 million or 2 audiences altogether, you know, viewers. That means the click rate. So what we've been doing is actually we talk about theater in the time of Corona. We talk about how could we participate in a time like this. And the audience would ask us questions, you know, how do you feel towards the theater in the future? And we open our imagination, blah, blah, blah. And I haven't been thinking in that activity about what a theater guy can do in a time like this. I wish we could all become doctors overnight. We can't. But that is why I think the event I created is very important. And that is why I think this event is very important.
Yeah, we have about a minute left. What did you learn, or what did your audience, the people who you talked to, what was their insight? What did they say? What the time
actually, most of them they're not theater goers. Actually, you know, theater does not own a big market in China, so they don't know what theater is, and they watch our shows, they watch our conversations to learn what theater is.
Yeah,
so something we've been talking about is quite fundamental. It's quite.
Yeah, but your theater artists, your guests, what did they say was the most important message they gave you in your talk?
Well, keep doing what you've been doing, actually. So theater won't die as long as there is theater people. I think that's the message I received.
It's the message. So you have a drum, keep drumming and to do it.
Yeah.
Hanchen, thank you so much for your insight and for you know, giving us in some kind of a fantasy world. I cannot really even imagine it. It's amazing. To hear that. And now we go to Tamilla and to James. Maybe both of you introduce yourself a little bit to our friends here online, but also to our great listeners who are taking time out of their lives to listen to us. Thank you for doing that. Maybe Tamilla, we start with you.
Hi, I'm Tamilla. I am a theater maker, and I just think right now I find myself as a human trying to just survive the times of Corona, you know, and all of the sort of dynamic evolution of being that is right now, but that, generally I'm a person that tells stories or helps other people tell stories or, incite stories. And I feel like the world itself is just like, wow, what a story. This is, how do we get around it? That's me.
Yeah. You were a director. Did you direct? What's happening? Did you direct? Did you do something that?
Yeah, I
put out?
did. I did. I directed, right as we began the lockdown, at the very beginning, I put together a group, a Hamlet study group that was international. So people from all over the world just came together to read one act every week in the first 5 weeks. And it became a way for us to think about ourselves, to reflect through a classic text ourselves. But, as we moved on, directed a whole play online, directed a film, directed a show, a musical. So I've been working and maybe like to my detriment, did not take the pause, but the pause took me. So I think that there's, as we all try to like make ourselves useful, I think that was the case, to like feel like we were useful, feel like we were still moving along. There are different outcomes for that. And sometimes it's, the world just puts the brakes on, whether you want them to or not. But yeah, I found myself making like more theater than the same amount of theater.
That's incredible. Yeah. But out of the place where you are at the moment, James, tell us a bit about you for our friends, and how are you doing?
I'm actually doing pretty well. I'm doing well. I was that little kid. My mother was like, James, go outside and play. And I'm like, I don't want to go outside and play. I want to stay inside. So this has oddly been, kind of like in my comfort zone to be cocooned. I realized that for the first time in my life that I am a man of privilege. I have a safe place to live. I have food in my house. I have a husband here who loves me, and I'm able to, and it's safe. One of the things that really disturbed me initially about this whole shelter in place was that there was an assumption that everybody lives in a safe space, like stay home, and I felt really strongly about people who were in situations where they were compromised. And I felt really grateful that I was not. And I was oddly able to continue and put one foot in front of the other and make work and move ahead with my practice in this whole COVID thing. So the theater, the creative making process between my ears was oddly alive. I wasn't crippled by this. And I understand people, the pandemic affected people a lot of different ways. But my comfort zone is just like, I can be an extrovert if I have to be, but I think my real comfort zone is just like, just being alone and just what about this? What about that?
And did you miss directing? You're also a director. You put plays together, and
you're
also in it. You're also in it. You star and you play them, but also you kind of create the shows, right?
I'm actually not a director. People always put me in that seat. Maybe I will one day. I mean, I'm a creator. I'm a producer. I'm a writer. I'm a performer. I usually collaborate with directors. And I'm working on a couple pieces, and moving ahead and in ways that I'm really grateful to be moving ahead in. And I have friends, colleagues who are crippled, unable to just do anything. And I understand that. So it's odd how this pandemic affects each of us very, very differently. And I honor that. And I feel like I'm really grateful that I was able to move ahead with my practice and still create, and very, very fertile, oddly,
Mm. I remember when we talked, when we had our talk, which I thought was so remarkable. It was, you know, still in the moment of the George Floyd murder, and it was such a deep, deep conversation. I think perhaps the deepest we had, you know, on these over 150 talks when it came to that theme. How do you remember now, with a little bit of distance, what do you think of the moment of that uprising, your engagement, your thoughts about it? Has anything changed? Is there additional thoughts about it?
You're asking me?
Yeah, we start with you. Why not?
Yeah, no, nothing's changed. I've been in rooms where I'm on a board of a theater, and the rest of the board is white, and one of the people was saying everything's not about race, and I'm like, well, it is if you're black. You know, it is if you're a black man. You know, as a white man, I don't think you have to think about getting in your car, making sure that your registration and your insurance card is in a transparent envelope that clearly doesn't hide a knife or a gun. You know, so these are things that I have to think about on a regular basis for me and my safety. And you know, like when a police car pulls up behind me, just, you know, I tense up, you know, because I used to think that, you know, I can complete a paragraph, so, you know, he won't fuck with me. And guess what? Doesn't matter, you know. George Floyd changed everything. And it changed my life greatly. I wrote a piece about it, and yeah, it's just, I don't know where we are now.
Who do you write the piece for? What was it about?
It's a crazy piece. It was a commission for the Apollo, and it's called the 50th Year Remembrance, the Tyler Perry Foundation, Macy's, Amazon, Hulu, Netflix, Disney, Beyonce, and Jay-Z Foundation, George Floyd Remembrance Day Passion Play Reenactment Parade. It is the Thanksgiving parade meets Black history.
Mm.
Tamilla, what comes to your mind when you listen to James?
You know, James's work is epic and terrifying, and also tender, and you know, and he just you know, he just calls people out, you know, through the experience of that work. And so yeah, I think that sounds like only a James thing. That sounds like only James, you know, and he gets at it with the title. You know, just that, you know, everybody puts all their names before they actually put the thing that it is. Someone said something in a meeting that I was in the other day, talking about like, you know, renaming things. You know, it needs to name something, like, let's name this after a Black person now to show that solidarity and, you know, and everything. And someone said, it doesn't matter what you call it, because if what's happening inside of it is rotten, it won't matter at all what you call it. And I thought, wow, it's so true. You know, it's like, it doesn't matter, you know, if you call it the memorial for George Floyd, if really putting all those other names in front of it, that's really what it is. That's really what it is. It's just a commercial for all those people. And how do we keep this from being a commercial for, you know, how do we keep the, you know, I'll sound like an old Black Panther person, you know, like how do you keep the revolution from being, you know, sold at Walmart, basically?
Yeah, no, yeah, that isn't a really important thought. I remember also what you said in our conversation, and people actually have talked to me about it too. You know, when you said, well, Frank, you white guys should talk to each other. Not only you inflict all of this on us, now you want us to explain it and to make you feel better and help you through that and guide it. You say, you should do that. That's your work. And I think there's so much truth to that, you know, that, and I hope that this moment contributed a little bit towards it. I think so. For me, it changed me in that way. And I think you were so right.
yeah, I hope those conversations are still happening. You know, I think that boy, I agree with James. Like, I don't know where we are, but George Floyd changed everything. I just don't know where we are in the continuum right now. I don't know where we are. And one of the things that I was afraid of, and still am, is like that this not be a revolution, you know, that we just go back around. We just keep going back around the same thing, but that at some point are we able to like break forward, break through, you know? Are we all able to keep our shoulder to the door, you know, long enough to actually like get this thing open and change how it works, you know? And we're talking about this country, and we're talking about race relations in this country, but it's also like it's about power all over the world, you know, and all of us here are different narratives, you know, of what liberation looks like, and who has power, and, you know, and all of that's changing. I mean, I don't know. I just don't know where we are. As a theater artist, I'm so glad that I can imagine what the future is. That's my job, is to, like, you know, as Boal says, like rehearse for the future, you know. Yeah.
Speaking about rehearsing, do you guys have something prepared as a reading? You didn't have to, you know, we have, you know, even a conversation, we won't fit everything in, but if you want to, or had something, it would be a moment now. If not, you know, I, you know, would like to ask you the question, when you hear about India and what all this, what goes through your mind? What do you, when you hear, or let's say also what Hanchen said, you know, what are you guys, how do you feel in connected or not, or you follow, or what does that mean?
These times are really scary for me, because I am a maker of theater. I dream up crazy shit, you know, and I've done some really extreme versions of things that I thought was really visceral, to illustrate the horrific atrocities that racism has perpetrated upon men who look like me. And now it's becoming a thing where, okay, well, it happened, but let's change history, you know, like, and that's what's real. That's what I think. That's one of the things that's most frightening to me, is that there's an initiative to not only dumb down history, but to rewrite it, you know. And I am like hell bent on, like, you know, pointing out, you know, whenever I can, that atrocities occurred, and they continue to occur. And there's a straight line from George Floyd back to Amadou Diallo, back to Rodney King, back to, you know, those who were enslaved, back to lynching. It's, you know, it hasn't really changed. I mean, there was a time when you know, a Black man did fill in the blank, whatever he did. His body was left out so that the town could see it, so that so the hope would be that people would act right. And I saw that in Chauvin on his knee, with his knee on George Floyd's neck. It's like, this was for the town to see, like, y'all better act right, you know, because this could happen to you. And it's just like the gall of this, like, public thing happening. And when it came down to the trial, there was drama, like he may get off, you know. So these are very, very, you know, disturbing times for me, you know.
No, they really aren't, for everybody, also for our friends and colleagues in India, really have to think about their livelihoods, and also so many people and families infected, dying. Coming back to theater, in your aesthetic practice as director, or as you as a creator, you know, of shows, of roles for yourself and putting them together, even others help you direct it, always looks like what I saw at James' performance, you know. So, but Is something changing? Do you feel this has an impact this time on the way you produce and work and create?
I'm interested in working across media. I'm interested in working virtually and live, and finding ways and means to bring people into work across the media. It's not new, you know, but that's something that's really interesting to me. How to do it in a way that gets people to feel. I am into cartoonishly visceral stuff. You know, I'm like, you know, I don't do subtlety too well. I'm like, you know, I feel like these are not times for subtlety. These are times to rub it in your face, you know. And I'm really interested in finding ways and means to do that virtual safe, so that people don't die, but to do that virtually, to have people feel something, you know. And I'm figuring it out, working on a couple pieces, and I'm really excited about it. And I don't know where it's going. And, you know, that's part of the excitement and fun, you know.
Yeah, I think about like all of the sort of like nationalistic leanings that we're all, you know, that so many places are engaged in our country too. And that as James said, like people trying to reframe the history, and like, how do we, I don't know, like, how do we actually like tell the story of who we are, not just in our little closed silos, you know, but to each other, you know, widespread, you know, keep reminding each other that the person you're looking at is another human being. Like, this is a person who the blood inside of them is red, their heart is pumping, you know, that the outside looks one way, you know, or they wear a thing that's not like the thing that you wear. And that's just the outside, but the inside is the same. And like, how do we change how we treat each other in a way? Can theater do that? Like, I hope it can. I hope it can remind people that we are more alike than we're different, you know, and that there is some, that is our job to bestow compassion to each other. That's our job as humans. I don't know. I hope the theater can do it. It was like, out of 100 people that see a show, if one person can remember that and do something, you know, for an hour long, and that's it for the rest of their life. I'm like, okay, yay, we've managed something. We've managed to change something.
And how
for a small time.
Yeah, and how extraordinary that people take out time in their lives to sit in a chair for 2 hours and to watch sometimes a story they already actually know, you know, what they are and what it is about, and but they want to learn something. And as Puja said in the very beginning, you know, to say, you know, not just put your shoe, you know, how does it feel another person's shoe? Take your shoe off. And I think this is really an important call to all of us, you know, and to say there is another level, you know, of this. As people say about, you have to be tolerant, you know, and tolerance actually is wrong. Tolerance means like you grant someone something. No, people have a right to be different. You know, they don't have to be like you are, but, you know, listen to different things. And the theater can be a public arena where ideas are fighting each other, confronting. There's a thinker who said, you know, there will never be an end of fight and right and left. Let's acknowledge it, but let's create areas where we can put out those fights, but it should be about the truth, and it should be the better ideas should win. And I think theater can do that.